Gentlemen, thanks for some of the constructive comments to my last video, The Middle Ground, link below. I realise it may have been ambiguous considering the video's brevity, sort of like foreplay without sex. I feel the need to restate that these videos of mine are simply conversational. I'm being imperfect with you, throwing something against the wall and seeing if anything sticks or if anything is interesting. I'm enjoying evolving out loud with my video skills by simply creating this content as much as I'm enjoying evolving intellectually just by conversing with you imperfectly in this way. Not afraid to be the student. My videos are not manifestos. They're journals, intellectual sketchbooks. I'm not claiming to know the answers to anything, gentlemen. There's no prescription with me, other than a curiosity and enjoyment of the subject matter. And given the certain comments below my last video, some are missing the point, I think. I'm posing philosophical questions, not scientific ones. It's not a criticism because some of the pat and reflexive responses are exactly the blind spot I was questioning in myself that caused me to make the video in the first place. And look, I really appreciate that science is an essential evidence-based approach to solving problems. I'm just asking you to consider how, when we get addicted to its efficiency, we may not notice a human vitality slip away as we rely on it solely. Feeling alive may start to die and we may not realize why. I'm asking us to consider that this push-pull when trying to balance the reason and emotion in our lives. That's all. I'm suggesting not to throw away the baby with the emotional bathwater. And I'm not evangelizing fantasy over feelings here. God no. Pardon the pun. But in considering the middle ground, I am simply talking about being less defensive, less divisive, less reactionary, and less dogmatic. Instead, embracing the looser grip of conversation over debate, having the skills of a Swiss Army knife rather than just a knife. If something is a lie, it's a lie. It's that simple, and I can accept that. But I've been alive long enough to see the creeping nihilism after many a starving male ingests revitalizing red pills, only to become addicted to them for survival. I've seen many sway too far over into the clinical understanding of life because of its simplistic power, becoming almost devoid of any humanity as a means of staying safe, reducing everything into a safe mathematical absolute, and as such losing much of their previous optimism in living, while in the possession of this very efficient red pill binary Bible they're now in possession of. The red pill nihilist might say to me,
"Oh, what's the point, human, if 2 + 3 = 5?
And I can't fault their statement. Red pill knowledge is some of the soundest, sane and most calibrating and beneficial information a man can understand facing the world today. But it's often delivered cold to one recipient while liberating to another. Your personality and perspective make a big difference, I believe. To the cold red pill perspective, or as some call it the black pill, I'd say it's not the only way to look at things.
But human, there is no other choice. 2 + 3 definitely = 5.
Calm down, okay, I'm largely on your page about black pill efficacy. But your equation is a matter of perspective also. 2 + 3 is indeed 5, yes. But doesn't 2 + 1 + 2 also = 5? My black pill cynical friend? Or 4 + 1? Or yet from another angle, 12 - 7? Or any subjective variation that speaks to you in a more constructive way. Perspective does matter, and that is the angle I'm trying to come from here on my channel in general. Not that reality isn't objective, it is, but one can process that same reality differently while still balancing the equation. We may be trying to get to the same numerical 5, gentlemen, but we can think and converse in such a way that it's not arrived at by a simple and Neanderthal 2 plus 3 all the damn time. I'm not saying that one of the numbers in your equation arriving at your desired number 5 answer need to be procreation or a girlfriend or a soulless job or anything. Parenthetically, some men are so invested in the answer, always shoehorning into 5, 5, 5, forever 5, all the fucking time, that if a better, more practical answer revealed itself, they'd still fight you in defense of their biased number 5. And we often witness many men still doing it. Do what works, fine, but put your sword away. And like many things I tend to discuss, it's a cognitive perspective rather than an absolute one equation fits all. I've never liked being locked into a cage much, physical or intellectual. My instincts tend to say, why can't I move? Why can't I look from a different perspective? Maybe it's just me though. You might dismiss this all as just creative semantics on my part, and you might be right. But remember, gentlemen, I don't think there are any real answers to life, only your subjective choices. This one-size-fits-all conversation style is the frustration for many in the manosphere looking for legitimate help. Your shoe size is rarely another's, but I acknowledge that we all need footwear to go on our journeys. But just don't forget the prerequisite mindset required for you to go your own way, that it's not another's, hence my suggestion for a loose grip in conversation. My approach to using objective reason is as a kind of best friend or bodyguard to my subjective desires or whims. It restrains them. For example, I subjectively value my autonomy and freedom as one of my highest values, and I will objectively use reason and logic as my parental bodyguard, disallowing anyone or anything to take advantage of it, not any man, group, woman, child, social norm or thing. My objectivity is protecting my subjectivity, if you will, but the bodyguard still allows my often naive subjectivity to skin its knee, catch a cold or take recoverable risks. Well, because that's life. That's empirical growth. I've spoken to some of the most intelligent people in our circles, far more intelligent than I, and many of these very intelligent men still seem to be incapacitated by a profound lack of internal will or optimism. You know, a major lack of buoyancy, because I think of an overemphasis in the mathematics of life. The oversimplified sentiment being,
none of this matters in the end, so why bother human?
This dynamic between logic and emotion was most famously stated by the architect character in The Matrix, where he says, quote, "I was again frustrated by failure. I have since come to understand that the answer eluded me because it required a lesser mind, or perhaps a mind less bound by the parameters of perfection. Thus, the answer was stumbled upon by another, more intuitive program initially created to investigate certain aspects of the human psyche," unquote. And this human aspect is what I try to talk about. Otherwise, life seems banal and clinical to me. Many men resist the intuitive, creative aspect because it cannot be measured, is prone to often lead us astray, not to mention it's become shameful kryptonite for men today, as it's sold as a female garment that ill-fits any self-respecting masculine man. That is, in today's gynocentric gaslighting, you're shamed away from intuition and creativity as a male that may help you enjoy frontiers you otherwise wouldn't by simply being a ruler forever measuring life. All squeeze and no juice, to misappropriate Barbarossa's line. I'm not suggesting men to get in touch with their feminine side. Fuck no. It's a clownish mask to cross-dress with. No. I ask you to consider that the intuitive, risk and creative side of men is something we've forgotten we have a great capacity for. One look at our civilized history to this point, from bridges to buildings to technology to literature to art and philosophy, should prove otherwise without a doubt. I know as men we're more inclined to find our answers by adopting the Matrix's efficient architect persona, but I still contend it deadens us of any colour. But again, I can hear the defensive reflexes of some of you. I'm not saying become the oracle instead. I'm not saying become the mother. I'm suggesting don't be afraid of responsible, eyes open risk, intuition, fun and creativity. Don't be a reckless child, sure, but enjoy yourself too, gentlemen. Despite arguably being the most famous scientist, Einstein was surprisingly a great advocate for imagination over knowledge. He coined the phrase, quote, "The true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination," unquote. For Einstein to come up with a theory like relativity, you can't just have knowledge. One must have profound intuition and creativity, which requires imagination that cannot be limited to the facts alone. In one interview, Einstein said, quote, "I am enough of the artist to draw freely upon my imagination. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited," unquote. Now, notwithstanding exceptions like Einstein, I think that scientists are experts in science, but generally not themselves. Fair enough. Philosophers too generally know jack shit about particle physics. My point being that we needn't limit ourselves. Quantum mechanics knows all too well that there's gold to be mined from theoretical models, without the need for literal or numerical perfection, lest the quantum physicist lobotomizes themselves with a philosopher's mind. You know, one scientist says, "Is this true?" and the other responds, "But what is true?" So on and so on and so forth. And we get hamstrung in semantic intellectualism, arriving nowhere. The point being, a thought model can be extremely useful and applicable without needing its literal proof. One might say,
"But human, if we're all just going to make up thought models, then what's the difference between you and someone who believes in flat earth Santa?"
Well, psychologists distinguish between imagination and fantasy in a simple way. Imagination is the ability to form images in the mind based on reality, while fantasy departs from reality and creates its own forms. In the end, all I'm suggesting, gentlemen, is that the rigidity of axioms, especially during conversation, may limit you, and there's nothing wrong with abstract notions when literal ones do not make any headway. Neoliberals are certainly limiting themselves in a feminine quest to make the world resemble a giant nursery, censoring everything and everyone in the name of safety, but I contend we need not fall into the same monolithic trap. We keep hoarding knowledge and networking systems to accommodate the hoarding today, thinking that this is progress. It isn't. We need to remember Einstein's words and recognize that we can't progress meaningfully, both in our lives now, let alone distally over tomorrow's horizon, if we refuse the possibility of integrating knowledge and intelligence around the creative axis. If all science does is prove or disprove theories, then that doesn't advance the human race very much at all. All the knowledge in the world means little without the imagination to comprehend that knowledge forward. We may fail and misfire, but that's better than entropy in my book. Generally speaking, we need not obsess so much over the perfection of mathematics, philosophy, or intelligence, gentlemen. Rather, I think we should focus on using these things for human benefit. On a final note, I hope I don't give you the wrong impression about my views on science. I think it's one of the most creative and admirable endeavours of mankind. And that's coming from someone like me who's on the traditional creative spectrum. Anyway, I hope this video provided more than just foreplay this time, gentlemen. Talk to you later. I appreciate your fraternity, guys. And if my videos mean more to you than just entertainment, feel free to support me via the PayPal and Patreon links below. Otherwise, keep the simple comments, likes, and subs coming. Thanks.